15 years ago today was the attacks in East Africa, where our embassies in Nairobi and Dar es Salaam were attacked. A lot has happened in the last 15 years. On that morning of 7 August 1998, no one thought that bin Laden was a threat. Actually, the bin Laden unit had been ordered to be shut down a week earlier. Mr. Michael Scheuer had fought valiantly within the agency to keep that operation going. No one had seen anything. There'd been nothing had occurred. They told me overplayed it. The bombings went off. I was the chief of Hezbollah operations. I traveled out to East Africa and the subcontinent. We captured the individuals. They confessed to being bin Laden's people, and Scheuer got new legs. And much of what he would do would help us in Afghanistan in 2001 when we ran the invasion. I have fairly strong views on the collection of metadata. I am not a supporter of the collection of metadata in the way that they are doing it right now. I would say that where there are opportunities for abuse and there are humans involved, there will be abuses. And I think that if you look at the Bill of Rights and you look at the Fourth Amendment, it's very easy to think, well, they're violating the Constitution. But if you look at the law, which is Maryland versus Smith. Maryland versus Smith in 1979 was a case that stated that there should be no expectation of privacy if there is a collection of the pen registry, and that is the numbers, essentially, from a phone company. And so you have a law, you have the Constitution, and you have a law that is sort of at variance with each other right now. What I would say is that I would feel much more comfortable, and I think those who have a sort of a libertarian streak would be more comfortable if we just had the phone companies hold the data for 5 years. The government pays to hold that data, and then when we want to go into the data, a FISA judge has got to let us in. And you've got to have one person in there. I don't think we should lose that data, and I agree with Peter King completely. You've got to have that data at times. The question is how cumbersome will this process be? Because sometimes you need to move quickly. And that's his other argument, which is correct as well. But we need to have a balance here, and I think the balance is the point that I just stated. I think right now what we're looking at, the United States is looking at, are two things, two factors. Right now, you really do have the Al-Qaeda 2.0 coming at us. Many of these organizations that are being led, these Al-Qaeda affiliates, are led by Gitmo detainees. People we had and people we released. We had two administrations, a Republican and a Democratic administration, that were releasing these people. Shame on them. Shame on them for letting these people go. Those are international organizations, and those are the Taliban militant organizations operating along the northwest frontier province, and that are attacking our sons and daughters who are now fighting the fight that some of us fought earlier on. So Al-Qaeda is a problem. It's going to be a continued problem. This is a decade-long problem. And it's something that we've got to be prepared for. We've got to balance, of course, liberty and security. But the other piece that we all need to look at and be mindful of right now, which no one is speaking about, is a resurgence of Hezbollah. Hezbollah, Party of God in Lebanon, the Shiite organization that did the attacks against us in the 1980s and took many hostages. After 9/11, they stepped back because they saw the ferocity with which the United States went after the Taliban and then went after Iraq. It took 4 or 5 years for them to get their bearings. But during that process, Hezbollah shifted from doing terrorist operations to creating maybe one of the largest criminal enterprises on the planet. They were receiving between $200 and $400 million a year from the Iranian government, and they have increased their capacity in crime and terror. About a year and a half ago, the Iranians and Hezbollah made a decision together to reinitiate. And they have made a number of efforts to conduct terrorist attacks. Many of them have failed because they lost their infrastructure and they lost capacity with a lot of the people. And the death of Ahmad Mughniya, who was killed in Syria about 3 years back. But Hezbollah's back in the game. They're larger. And though we criticized the Clinton administration in the 1990s for being a little bit too law enforcement centric, we're going to have to use the law enforcement model against Hezbollah because they're a large criminal organization. It's just like we might not have been able to convict Al Capone for murder, but we were able to get him on taxes. We're going to have to take some of those guys off the table, and maybe the law enforcement means that we will have to use. So we're going to be entering to a new phase in this struggle. And it's going to be two phases. We're going to be struggling against both Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda, the new phase, the new groups of these simultaneously. And the third part of this is we're going to be doing this in an environment where there's less resources. Economic security is very, very important. If we cannot get our economy organized properly, we will not be able to field the forces, whether they be military forces or national security forces in terms of intelligence that we need to defend the United States. So we've got a lot of challenges. I think that there are some compromises that we can find to get ourselves, to move ourselves through some of these issues that we're having right now. And I think that ultimately in the end, we can put ourselves in a good position to defend ourselves. Thank you.